So, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at a great, auspicious event. It's a fantastic audience, and the speakers there, great insights. And I think you've actually set up my presentation very well. So, thank you. I'm glad we collaborated before the session today. So let me try and spend the next 20 minutes just giving you my perspectives on where we see smarter systems emerging and how smarter systems will really become the fundamental driving force for economies and the way we live going forward. And the way I want to start that is to look at IBM's global technology outlook. IBM continues to invest significantly in research. We continue to be one of the top patent filers on a year-by-year basis. And at the beginning of every year, our research division goes back to the chief executive and says, please, can you sign our check for the next year's worth of research? And to justify that, we have an agenda of topics. And these are actually the agenda of topics that were presented this year. And I'm not going to go through all of them because we don't have time today, but I just want to pick a couple of things out. So the first thing that we're saying is, the Internet of Things is likely to become a reality in the next 10 years. So the Internet of Things means that we can put Internet into every single device that we have, whether it's the phone, like a watch phone that I have, or whether it's your chewing gum, I don't know, anything. Well, we can make it an Internet device, right? And that gives us some interesting capabilities, which we'll draw on in a few minutes. The second thing that we said was natural resources has been one of those areas which has lacked IT investment. If you do an analysis of where IT has helped systems and how systems have changed, natural resource management is actually one that is well behind. And some of the things that you were saying earlier are a direct consequence of that. We don't have the information we need to really understand the metabolism of some of these systems, whether it's CO2, whether it's iron ore, whether it's plastics. We don't actually have the systems to be able to capture the data to make some of those fundamental decisions. So natural resource management is a key aspect of that. The third area is a really important one to me personally, because IT systems have been very hard and very precise. They're all about, this is a process that you will follow. Apple and some of the work that they've done with the iPad and the iPhones and so on have started to make that much softer, and evolutions of things like Facebook and Twitter and Flickr and those kind of things start to make the interaction of how we infuse technology into our daily life as changing. So the third area that we see as a fundamental shift in the next 10 years is what we call socially synergistic computing. And it's not just socially synergistic computing for the sake of it, it's for enterprise solutions. The systems that we use within the enterprise will become socially synergistic. It will start to understand some of the underlying principles that we live by, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the kind of eminence aspects that we have, some of the social aspects that we have as human individuals in our day-to-day business life. The next two themes are ones that I'm going to spend a bit more time on because I think they are key to this whole question of sustainability and key to the question that Technoport's trying to address itself to, which is how do we create this sustainable world? How do we lead the world in some of these changes that we see are fundamental, not only to make the world a better place, but also to create value for us and the people who are in Norway and work here and create the jobs here. So the first one of those is petascale analytics, appliance, and ecosystem. That's a hell of a mouthful, I know, but we'll come back and look at this some more in the next slide. The last part is one of frontiers of IT. And this really starts to look at the issue of where are we at with the frontiers of IT systems capability and how will that evolve over the next 10 years? And what are the real grand challenges that we see out there in IT system terms? So let's start with the petascale analytics. Petascale analytics is really about big data. Okay. We can, as I said earlier, we can instrument almost anything. A quick throwaway line, 33 billion RFIDs that exist in the world today. We can sensor almost anything. 1 billion transistors exist for every human alive. We can create sensors for absolutely anything, right? So we can capture data, but there are actually two types of data that we worry about. And the first one is on the left, which we call rivers of data, vast amounts of information flowing at us from sensors and systems, and those things need to be actioned and understood very quickly. So it's data in motion. It's about very rapid response to those kind of it flows and ebbs and tides of data that are coming along, real-time awareness, real faster decisions. That's what we call rivers of data. And the second big data challenge is what we call oceans of data. And this is where we've captured the data. We really understand the metabolism of oil. We really understand the metabolism of all these systems. What do we do about it? How do we think about the real gems of insight that we have that can make the change, the thing that can really seed that transformation that we need for the society? And that's where we need a very different set of analytic systems. Now, what we were predicting is that every sort of smarter planet, smarter thinking, has information at its core, and having information of those two types, bringing them together, having the insight, gives us the ability to make some of those changes. So the next part then is really about frontiers of IT, and I kind of alluded to that a second ago. The slide's not moving forward. There we go. So there are really three aspects to where we see the frontiers of IT going. And the first one is computing everywhere. So one of the biggest challenges I have is that I'm sorry I don't speak Norwegian. I'd love to be able to buy a little device which I plug on the side, and instantly I can speak Norwegian. Wouldn't it be nice, right? So that's some of the kinds of research that we might be looking at in the next 10 years. Is that humanly possible? Actually, it's not that hard. It's not as impossible as you might think. And so this notion of augmenting human reality and using a whole bunch of devices which are not far from us, from near us, things that we touch, to things that are actually inside us, becomes a fundamental part of where we go forward. The second area is one of natural interfaces and connectivity. How do we interact with systems? We've been used to keyboards, and keyboard entries is kind of well understood, and touch with this latest round of iPhones and iPads and Android phones, all that sort of stuff. But where do we go next with that? Is it about different senses? Is it how far away are we from being able to recreate smells, recreate touch, recreate feelings? And those are some of the areas of research that we're just starting to kick off. We're not sure how far we're going to get with that. But the really interesting one for me is on the right side, the new computing paradigms. And the traditional sort of von Neumann architectures are really being challenged by a range of new compute systems that are being inspired by biological systems, and there's a whole bunch of research in that space. And the best example of what's happening here is probably Watson. Now, how many of you have seen IBM's Watson system? Anybody know Watson? Oh, well, great. How many of you know Jeopardy, the US game show Jeopardy? Anybody not know Jeopardy? If you don't, you need to get a life. But okay, so let's assume you all know Jeopardy. So the challenge that was set was, build me a computer system that can win the world leaders at Jeopardy, at the game of Jeopardy. Okay? And that's what we did in the beginning of this year. So we took on Ken and Brad, who are world champions at Jeopardy. I'm just going to show you a short video clip of actually the practice match, not the live match, of Watson playing. So let's play Watson. In fact, let's play Jeopardy. Maybe we will. Hello?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. What do you say we play Jeopardy? Let's get right into the Jeopardy round. These categories: a man, a plane, a canal, Erie, Chicks Dig Me, children's book titles, My Michelle, MC5, and finally, vocabulary. Ken, you're in the first position. Please make a selection.
I've never said this on TV. Chicks Dig Me for 200, please, Jimmy.
Kathleen Kenyon's excavation of this city, mentioned in Joshua, showed the walls had been repaired 17 times. Watson.
What is Jericho?
Correct.
400, same category.
This mystery author and her archaeologist hubby dug in hopes of finding the lost Syrian city of Urkesh. Watson.
Who is Agatha Christie?
Correct.
Same category, 600.
At the Olduvai Gorge in 1959, she and hubby Lewis found a 1.75 million year old Australopithecus Boise-eyed skull. Watson.
Who is Mary Leakey?
You're right.
800, same category.
Harriet Boyd Hawes was the first woman to discover and excavate a Minoan settlement on this island. Watson.
What is Crete?
Yes.
Let's finish Chicks Dig Me.
At Mount Carmel in Israel, Dorothy Garrod was the first to find this prehistoric human skeleton outside of Europe. Ken.
What is Neanderthal?
You're right.
Let's go to children's book titles for 200.
Marjorie Williams' story of a stuffed toy that comes to life, the blank rabbit. Brad.
What is Velveteen?
You're right.
MC5 for 200, please.
He's worth every penny as Alfred Pennyworth in The Dark Knight. Brad again.
Who is Michael Caine?
You're right.
MC5 for, let's jump down to 800, please.
Edgar Degas' style influenced that of this
Can we
female
stop this?
American impressionist. Brad.
Who is Mary Cassatt?
So if you want to see the whole match, you can go on YouTube, just search Watson Jeopardy, you'll be able to see the whole match. And needless to say, Watson won. So there's a couple of things that we talk about Watson there. Watson wasn't just fed the information, it actually was given the books and said, this is the information you need to know. The systems actually helped the Watson system decide whether it knew the answer to the question, and so decided whether it was going to press the buzzer or not. And so the rules were, it was a closed system, it couldn't search the internet, it was a database it had to have, and it had to respond in the same way as the humans did. It had to press a buzzer just like the humans did. And so it's a fascinating view of where technology has got to. And the real frontier of IT is learning systems. Can we build self-learning systems? And that's really where we're trying to take this next wave of research. But even though I'm a CTO, I'm going to say it's not about technology. Technology is fantastic, it's great, it's fun, et cetera, but it's not, it's about people. And it's about what people are doing that matters. And the speakers before spent a lot of time explaining that very clearly. And so the challenge that I see here is that this clicker doesn't work. The challenge that I'm seeing here is that we need to get the information in a way in which is understandable by everybody. What we're seeing more and more is that Hollywood is sensationalizing some of these issues. The 2012 movie, when I sit and watch 2012, it looks just like reality. And then I come and watch the news and watch Brisbane flooding. And in my mind, I can't separate the two. Okay? And that's one of the real fundamental challenges that we have. How do we make sustainable issues, sustainable challenges personal? How do we make it important to you? Not the world, but you. And that's really where what we're trying to do with Smarter Planet helps us do that. Gathering the real data. The first part of our Smarter Planet message is, let's gather that data, let's pull that data together in a meaningful way. Let's integrate that into a unified view of those systems. And metabolism is a great analogy, and same kind of terminology we're using. And then use that to make smarter decisions. So if I go to the next slide, you'll start to see the real challenge here is thinking about sustainability in a very different way. It's thinking about sustainability, understanding the societal issues. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs of an individual is important here, both at an individual level and at a community level. Understanding the environmental issues and understanding how the environmental challenges really can be addressed, but bringing together the economical challenges. Where those three things come together, in the center of that, that's really where the value is. And if you can get into that center, you can really start to make changes happen. And the simple model that I'm using to help us understand that is those three I's. Do we really understand the issue in the middle there at a level which it matters to an individual at a very personal level? Can we really create the investment that we need to be able to make that change happen? And can we inspire the actions that we need from the individuals to make the progress happen? Because unless we inspire the change, it's just talk. Right? And so I'm going to leave you with one last thought here, because technology, sustainability creates great opportunities for us. When I look at the big issue that many of the developed nations face today, it's tied into this thing here. So we've grown up from an agricultural economy through a manufacturing economy to what we now think of as a services economy. UK is actually a stark example. UK is very similar to the US. So of the $2.183 trillion that makes up the UK GDP, that's a 2009 number, by the way, you find 75% of it is tied into the services economy. Okay? If I look at the Norway numbers, 52.7 of the 276.9 billion that makes up the Norwegian economy is tied into the service industry. Now the challenge here and the question here is we all understand what happened to the manufacturing economy as it commoditized. As machinery replaced what human labor did, the systems commoditized, and the amount of value you could create out of that, the amount of GDP you could eke out of those systems declined. The services economy is at the front end of that commoditization curve. That's a view that we're now finding more and more clearly. And the challenge is what comes next. If the services economy in the UK suddenly went to 35% or 40% or 20%, what comes next? And that is, I think, a question that something like a Technoport should absolutely be thinking about. And that's the kind of question that an IBM would be very keen to collaborate with you on. And I think the question here is very well helped by the juxtaposition of Einstein's own view, where the thinking that has got us to where we are today is not the thinking that's going to solve the future problems, right? We need to think differently. We need to start to think differently and build new systems. And so some of the techniques that we've had in the past need to be put away. Now, I have a personal view that the question mark on the right-hand side is digital economy. I have a personal view that software is the primary force that is driving the commoditization of the services economy. And the work that we're doing here provides us great insight into not only understanding that transition, but enabling some of the value creation and a proportionment back into Norway for some of that value. And that's really where I think the opportunity lies for us. So I'd like to thank you for this opportunity and hope you found that useful. Thank you.